Hello, Caitlin. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
This is going to be great. I'm super excited. It has been such a long time since I've connected with you.
Yeah.
And well, I think actually the SOAR for Cystic Fibrosis event in Moose Jaw was the last time that I chatted with you. And so much has happened
Oh, yeah. What
in,
year was that I was part of
I
it?
think that was 2017.
Okay. So yeah, it's been a few years for
Yeah,
sure.
it's been a while and lots
Yeah.
has been going on in your world, and I can't wait to hear what you've been up to. So, for my listeners who haven't had the pleasure of hearing about your makeup and about all of the new amazing ventures that you have on the go, give us a little background into Caitlyn and how did you get started in the world of makeup?
Well, about 10 years ago now, it's been a while, but I went to makeup school in Vancouver. And I'm originally from Saskatchewan as well, but I'm in Calgary now. But I went to Vancouver for school and studied makeup and just fell in love with it. I mean, I've always loved it, hence why I got into that field. But it kept my love. And yeah, I studied and then I ended up moving back to Saskatchewan and mentoring under a really experienced makeup artist based in Regina. And I learned so much. And yeah, so that's kind of how I started on this journey.
That's amazing. So, how did you decide to go to school in Vancouver?
Well, being from Saskatchewan, especially like Moose Jaw,
Yeah,
growing up, like the job of a makeup artist was not a thing.
yeah,
Like I did my own makeup for grad. Had I wished somebody would have done it, but
right.
now you can find makeup artists so easy. But yeah, back then it was like that's not really a job. Um, so I started doing research, and then I was actually in Winnipeg for a couple months, just staying with my cousin out there after high school, and I remember researching and just being like, I just love it so much, and like people are doing makeup for like movies and magazines and events, so like why can't it be a job? Somebody has to be doing it, right? So I just started researching, and then I came across Blanche MacDonald, the school that I went to in Vancouver, and I was like, oh my gosh, yep, I'm doing
This
it.
is
This is
it. This is
where, yeah,
it.
I really want to go. Yeah. So that's kind of,
Th-
yeah, what led me
That's
there.
amazing. And I love that you came back home and you came back afterwards and did such amazing work. And
Thank you.
so you've really, from when you started, and we'll get into all of the things that you're up to now, because you've created so many amazing things within the company that you've created now.
Thank you.
But I feel like when I first met you or knew about you, either well, you can be the person that puts this in the right timeline because I don't know the
Yeah.
exact timeline of when this exactly happened, but
Mhm.
you entered a competition
Yes.
and made a little name for yourself. Small Saskatchewan girl goes big time, right? Those are always like the funnest stories that people in Saskatchewan love to cover, right? When something really
Yeah.
out of the box happens.
Oh,
So
yeah.
tell the listeners about this competition because this is so cool. And I think maybe too, because I'm raising daughters who
Yeah.
have big dreams and
Yeah.
aspirations of things. And I think sometimes it's easy when you live in a small place. And I've always been this way too, where I've always had dreams that were bigger
Yeah.
than what seemed like the maybe quote unquote normal thing to do. Like it would have been easier to take certain roads, but that didn't really feel like the right thing to do. And so you take
Mhm.
a road that's probably more difficult, but it feels more you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about this competition.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, this was totally something that growing up, if you would have told me I was involved in something like this, like, there's no way. Like, I just never would have thought it was possible. But yeah, so I was working in Regina as a freelance makeup artist, and I was working for MAC Cosmetics and, trying to make my way as a freelance artist. And then I ended up seeing a competition put on through L'Oreal Paris. And so I I entered the competition, of course. And I was still a really new makeup artist. I was like, I think so that was 2015. And I started doing makeup in like 2011. So I had been doing it for a few years. Anyway, so I entered this competition. I ended up you had to submit a 3-minute video and doing makeup on either yourself or a model. And then you submitted the video. It's like a tutorial. And so I went out and bought a ton of L'Oreal products, loaded up, and I got a model that I had worked with a bit, and then a photographer that I knew in the city. And he ended up figuring out how to do video, and then we put together a tutorial, and you can still see it on YouTube. But so I submitted my video, and then it went, so they picked the top 50 videos that were submitted, and then they ended up putting it out to public voting. So this really got a lot of people involved, and just really was so amazing to see the support. And you know what, being from a community like Moose Jaw and a province like Saskatchewan was so vital in my success with this competition. You know, having that community behind you, and a community that actually cares and is excited about these kinds of things, because like we were saying, these kinds of things don't really happen that much. Yeah, like Darian Durant, I think he was like the quarterback for the Riders at the time, and he ended up like tweeting it. And Brad, oh, what's his name? Oh, I can't remember, but it was really cool. Like, people were excited about it. Yeah, so then through the commitment of my community and our province, I ended up finishing top 3 or top 5. And so that meant that myself and then the other top 4 finalists competed in a live competition at the Shangri La Hotel in Toronto, which is stunning. And they held the competition, a live competition in person, in like the chandelier room. So huge windows, views of downtown Toronto, and like tons of chandeliers. It was so neat. But yeah, so that was a live competition, and we had to create a red carpet look. And I remember I did something kind of taupe with like splashes of kind of metallic or whatever. It sounds crazy, but it was actually quite like yeah, so anyway, so I ended up winning for Canada, which meant that I got to fly to Paris. Actually, they said Paris, but it ended up being the Cannes Film Festival. Yeah, right into the French Riviera. So it was so
amazing. My gosh.
Yeah.
Just no big deal. Just the film festival of the century.
Oh God, it was very intimidating. I remember I was in Montreal before my trip, and I was looking for an outfit, and I was by myself, and I was like, just stressed. I'm like, what do I wear? I'm like, I can't afford what all these red carpeters are going to be wearing, but.
That is amazing. What an incredible opportunity.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. It's so funny now. It's hard to believe that even happened. It feels like a lifetime ago, but
like a dream. Well, especially right now when we're like not allowed to really get together with people, you're like, can I just be back in the chandelier room or back at the Cannes Film Festival?
Yeah, for sure. I think I'd appreciate it even more at this point.
Honestly, that is so amazing. So how did you find that with the momentum that sort of led just even from you getting to that point in the competition in Canada and then winning Canada and going on to the big competition, how did that change your course or even change your mindset? And I don't know, probably even just like really validate feelings that you were having about what you were doing as a career. I know confidence in women, and especially being entrepreneurs, it's so easy to get in your head. And I talk about this a lot on the show. When you're self-employed and you're doing your own thing and you're just trying to build, and you're kind of essentially selling yourself, selling your ability, selling what you can do, it takes a lot of courage. And I say that because I've experienced that myself in my 20-year career, where it takes courage to put yourself out there like that and to really try to market a service and to feel confident. And there's lots of days where it doesn't feel as easy, more not easy days than easy.
That's for sure. Yes.
How did you find that this competition kind of, I don't know, just helped maybe give you like that spark or give you just a new kind of feel and direction in where you were going in your career and in your business?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. You know, I was so young, and it's so bizarre for something like that big to happen at the beginning of your career, where it's like, you know, I didn't even feel like I was prepared for that kind of thing yet. And so it was really interesting, you know, it was, I think, still tricky to navigate after, because I think, having that kind of experience, but still being new and timid, it was like, I probably should have felt more like confident because I had that, but I was still just honoring where I was in the journey, and I knew I
Mm,
still had a lot to learn, and so yeah, I think it was just, if anything, it just showed me that really anything is possible. Like,
yeah.
it's seriously, if you want something, you can do it. And, there are limitations, but not if you work around them and you push through, right? So,
Well, it is. And I think sometimes there's like a little bit of a misconception of like when people talk about, oh, I'm manifesting this to happen and this is
yeah.
happening. Well, yes, like that's all good. And I use that term sometimes too, and probably not in necessarily the correct way that maybe others would choose to use it. But
Right.
it's the idea of, and I think there's like a lot of different self-help books and a lot of different books and ways and things where people kind of talk about this exact same concept and kind of put a new label or a new name on it, depending on what
Yeah.
they're trying to use it for. But
Right.
where you put your energy is what
Yes.
comes back to you, right? Like it's not
Yes.
really about like, oh, I'm going to be a celebrity and I'm going to be rich. And I talk about this with my kids too, because that's like one of those things when you're younger where you're like, this is the ultimate happiness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
I think
yes.
even grown-ups get confused with that too sometimes, but
Totally.
yeah, it's interesting. So I love that you said that because I feel like it really is like where you put your energy and where you choose to spend your time and
Yep.
resources and just invest a lot of you, that's where it comes back from. And there's really no rocket science around that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of the things I'm learning as I get older and have gone through more throughout my 20s, it's, I I believe that, like, if we have a strong passion about something, we can't ignore it, because it's that passion that drives us to get to where we want to get. Otherwise, without the passion for and the love for what you're doing and that spark, it's hard. You're dragging yourself, and you can't. It's hard to reach that goal or that dream. But yeah, so that's one thing I feel like I've really learned, is that if I feel passionate about something, I can't ignore it. It's coming up for a reason, and it's like, pay attention to me. You don't want to lose that potential that passion holds.
That's right. And each time you listen to that, it kind of opens another door or a window, whether that's something that leads far or leads just to a step of something else. That's just
Yes,
the next step you're supposed to take, right?
totally. You gain something from every experience that kind of starts to, you know, pile up, and you can kind of build from there.
Well, yeah. And then it's when you're looking back, you're like, oh, there's how that was supposed to unfold, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. So, now, as you've evolved as a makeup artist and now you're in Calgary and you have your own business,
Mhm.
how did how did this step, I guess, from being a freelance makeup artist turn into you making the decision to kind of open up the Caitlyn Dixon Makeup Academy and have that be another avenue of business versus just somebody being able to book you to get their makeup done for something special or some type of reason?
Right. Um, so I actually started working with a business coach at that time. And so that is kind of the project that we worked on together, was expanding and bringing, sorry, I was going to say Leah Walco, my Caitlyn Dixon Makeup Academy. Yeah, I think I just wanted to be able to offer like my simple and basic makeup skills, like everything I kind of built up over the years. And I wanted to compile it into like a little course that somebody could take to learn everyday makeup, because I've had people want me to kind of teach them, but they lived in a different city or something like that. And so it was a really good way of being like, I actually can help you. I have this course. And so yeah, it was kind of to sort of fill in that gap as well.
That's amazing. So, who would you say the course is directed to? Like, who would be, for my listeners who are like, yes, this is sort of like every person's issue who isn't a professional at
Right.
makeup. I speak honestly from myself, and now as my children are starting to use makeup themselves too,
Right.
where I'm like, oh, you just need that like easy, because you guys make it look so easy. Sure, no big deal. Just throw your 5-minute face on. I'm like,
Right.
it looks very different having somebody professional do it than myself.
Right. Well, it's so complicated until you see how simple it can be. But otherwise, it's like, I remember when I was first starting makeup when I was like 16, 17. Um, and it was so frustrating. I don't know if it was just me, but I was just like, like this has got to be easier. I want to get this result, but I don't know how. I don't know. It's not working, right? So yeah, it's definitely targeted towards everyday women that just want like a really clean, polished look without being like overdone. Like my style definitely isn't like super trendy Instagram style makeup. It's definitely more like natural and just sort of meant to like enhance without making somebody feel like, oh my God, I'm wearing so much makeup. I don't
Yes.
even look like myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
that's
love that.
definitely,
Well, and I think those kind of tutorials are harder to find. I know I see even the ones that
yeah.
you like watch something on YouTube, or they're always like picking something a little more out there just for
Totally.
fun and to try new things, which is all great. Obviously, it's supposed to
Mhm.
be fun. But for someone like myself, and I think a lot of my listeners are going to be like nodding their heads as they hear this, like,
Yep.
I don't need to know how to get my turquoise and my
Yeah.
like things for photo shoots. And like, that's all great and has its
Yeah.
place. Yeah. I just need to
Yeah.
be able to
Complex.
how do I get out of the house in the morning? How do
Exactly.
I make it out of the house and it not take forever and you feel, like you said, polished and put together, which the busier
Exactly.
it gets, the harder that feels. And I think as women, we're like the first to neglect ourselves. We're like, okay, whatever, we'll just
Yeah.
make it work.
Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely target like quick, easy, and effective versus, wasting too much time. Yeah.
Love it. I'm
Doing your
going to
bit.
tag this in the show notes because this is
Yeah.
brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you referenced this before when you were talking about the Makeup Academy. So, as you've evolved in your business, and I think this is sort of a natural evolvement of an entrepreneur as well, and I'm sure you're recognizing this as you've been in business longer and longer, is
Mhm.
that little ideas spark other little ideas, and then other things spark this, and all of a sudden you're having ideas about things that don't even really seem to necessarily mesh with what you're currently doing, but you're like, how do I make these things mesh? Hey.
Totally. Totally. I think as
Like,
creatives, it's like you always want to try something new.
yes. And everything
Mhm.
inspires everything else. So you're like
Oh, it
eating in
does.
a restaurant, or you see a piece of art, or you hear something somewhere, and you're like, hey, wait, what could I do with that? And it's just sort of this ever evolving idea list.
Yes. Yeah. Just keeps snowballing.
Just never stops. Totally. So
Yeah, exactly.
this would be one of those things, I would imagine, as to how your next venture came up and how you've sort of merged these ideas of creatives, because everything you do is very creative. So yeah, there's obviously an underlying skill. So tell us about your newest venture.
Yeah, so this year has been a big year for my new venture. It's yeah, I mean, COVID's obviously been terrible and scary, but I'm so grateful that something new came out of it for me. But I started painting a couple years ago, probably 2018. I started playing with watercolor, and I kind of dabbled a little and sold a few things at first, and then COVID happened, and so my boyfriend's mom did my taxes, and then I wanted to pay her, but she's like, would not accept money. So I was like, okay, I better get creative. I gotta, make her something pretty, something thoughtful. And so I YouTubed a tutorial of this like really pretty, like floral photo, um, like a tutorial on how to paint it. And so I just followed along, and then I was like, ooh, like it just sparked something in me. And being in quarantine and isolated and not leaving the house, I literally painted like for like 3 months straight. And I just kept painting and posting things. And I had people start to comment like, hey, well, what about wallpaper? And like, what about wall decals and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, that would be cool. But like, oh my gosh, like, where do I even start? Like, I don't know how to get these paintings on a computer. I don't know how to use Photoshop. I didn't know how to do any of that. So just with time and with kind of doing some research and figuring out little tools that I could use, like I kind of figured out how, and I found a print shop and started, and then I was like, oh, I figured out how to do wall decals. Okay, well, let's do it. So that's sort of how that evolved this year, or in 2020.
That is amazing. That is such a testament to seriously true entrepreneurial. That is how I stumbled upon a podcast. Same
Yeah.
exact thing. Like you see people doing stuff all the time somewhere else or somewhere or in some version where you're like, oh, but what about maybe if I tried something this way or this way?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so daunting at the beginning. And I think it's like this with anything from a young age, right? Like when you're trying to do something and you're like, oh, like even you speaking about being a teenager and trying to figure out these makeup tutorials, we're like, I just want them to work, right?
Yeah, so
We're
frustrating.
doing this with math problems today for
Oh,
homeschool, like same
Mhm.
thing where something seems so complicated at the beginning. And I am so that personality that just wants it all figured out yesterday. Like
Oh yes,
not
instant.
patient at all. And now I'm raising little blessings that I've passed along the not patient gene to. So that's my own fault. But yeah, like you're trying something and you assume that it should just work or that you should just be really good at it immediately
Yeah.
rather than seeing the fact that you're not actually usually seeing somebody on Instagram's full scope of how long it actually took to get to the place where they're posting something, right?
Yeah. The frustration, the tears, oh yeah, it's not easy, but I mean, it's worth it when you figure something out. It's like, wow, how I didn't think this was possible.
And so satisfying and validating when it's figured out because yes, there's a lot of things where there's times and places in life where just hiring somebody to do services and different things in life, whether it's for your personal life or business or whatever the case, you're like, yep, like you mentioned your taxes, like this just has to be not done by me. Someone needs to get this figured out and it cannot be me. But then there's other times where when you can actually just like pick up the step by step. Okay, I don't know how to do this. We're going to research it. Okay, now I don't know how to do this. We're going to research it. Okay, now I again don't know how to do this. And it could be 50 things, but those all build together to just create the project that you needed, like your decals. I wouldn't have any clue how to begin.
Yeah, I really didn't. I was just like, oh my gosh. But it's so true. It's like, it makes you realize that there's a lot more that's possible. You just have to dig and you have to get hungry and you have to figure it out and you have to ask people and you have to trial and error. It's cool.
I love that. Oh, I love that. So how then, tell me a little bit more about Alia Walco and how you have what products you have available and how they actually work. And they are so pretty, by the way. Like you've done such a great job. You have such a beautiful little collection on there.
Thank you. It's a growing collection. Sorry, what was your question again?
No, that's good. What products do you have available online and how do they kind of all tie in with your creativity?
Okay, so I kind of started branching into different, like, as I was like, oh, I want to put my art on stuff, but I don't know how or where again, but research, you sort of figure these things out. And so I started with throw pillows, and then the next thing to come was makeup bags, which of course I love makeup and
yeah.
So those were kind of my two products that I started with. And then it just evolved into like face masks, throw blankets. I can do so many products now that I've figured out manufacturers and what they all offer. So like it's really endless. But yeah, it was really neat to figure that out. I was just like, oh my gosh, there's something pretty cool about seeing your little watercolor paintings on stuff like
they're
makeup
coming to life.
Yeah, it's wild. Right? Yeah, it's crazy.
So with your wall decals, so that would sort of be the piece. I mean, for myself, love home decor, home design, and all of that, but have renovated, moved, built, done lots of different things so many times that sometimes taking on a project now, I'm like, oh my goodness, I just can't even do another project. Like it's just can't. So your wall decals were just so appealing to me when I first saw them, because I'm like, this is so perfect, because on places that, if you do them right, they
Yeah.
really do have a very wallpaper-esque
Yes.
feel to them, with what seems like 8,000 hours less of labor and time.
And frustration. Oh my gosh.
Years again.
Oh, wallpaper is one of those things that it's so beautiful, but it's like so much work and you definitely commit to a project. Whereas this
Yeah,
is like it's a refreshing take on wallpaper. It's like, you stick it on and you leave it for as long as you want and you can peel it right off and there's no damage. So it's like there's no commitment. If you don't like it, well, whatever, try something else.
totally. That is so
Yeah.
cool. Well, and the designs are so pretty and so
Thank you so much.
different and unique that you offer, that it's not like there's just like a sort of one look and, oh well, if you don't like this look, then I guess these aren't for you. Like, they're just such a cool assortment.
Oh, thank you. That was definitely one of my goals at the beginning. I was like, okay, I have to have like a little bit of like graphic and basic shapes, but then, the more complex like leaves that are right behind me. And yeah, so thank you. I appreciate that you can see that.
Yeah, no, I love that. So where does your inspiration come from to decide what decals or products you're going to do next? Do you get feedback, or is it things you're like, oh, wow, I want one of these, I'm going to make it?
Oh, exactly. I think it's a bit of everything. Sometimes I have people coming to me and they're like, okay, I really want like something like this. I'm like, ooh, okay. So then, they might send me some inspo or, I kind of listen to what they're saying and then I create something or, oh, sorry, my puppy wants me to play with her. um, yeah, so it comes from lots of different places. If I see something, I don't know, like walking down the street on someone's blinds or like a book or like just, you can pull inspiration or nature, like in the fall, I remember walking and seeing these beautiful leaves on the ground. And so, yeah, inspiration seriously everywhere.
Well, isn't that the truth? And you're like,
Yeah,
eyes are always open, probably to seeing things in such different ways now,
yeah,
as
exactly.
you're working on products versus a service that you are offering too, right? Like, that's such
Yeah,
kind of like a different mindset of thought
totally.
in business.
Yep.
I love
Yeah,
that.
it's nice. It's a good balance because I still do makeup, but it's really nice to just have that quiet time just to paint and you're still working, but you're doing something like makeup's good for the soul too. But I don't know, there's something about this solace, like quiet time. You put on a little music and you just get lost in the creation and yeah.
Well, I don't think I've ever met an entrepreneur that doesn't just sort of love the diverse opportunities that can come from owning your own business, where it's like
Yeah.
you have this potential of, hey, this isn't totally working for me right now, so I'm going to add this in. I can still do this, but I'm not spending all my time there. You can balance your time, you can try new things.
Oh,
And
totally.
yeah, it's kind of this like art of figuring out the design that works best for your own life.
Oh, it's so true. I think that's why I love it so much too, is you literally are just kind of creating like the flow and what works for you. And there's just something really freeing about it for sure.
I love that. So,
Yeah.
what would you say, in being an entrepreneur and being a creative,
Mhm.
what do you feel inspires you the most, just in what you get to do every day? I know this year it's like sometimes it's been hard sometimes to answer some of these questions in what
Right.
feels like a normal way, because it feels
Totally.
like so much of what's going on in our life is still kind of reference to what we can and can't kind of do right now. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, even in this, despite
Yeah.
all of this, what do you feel sort of inspires you the most about being in the industry that you're in and being a creative and getting to meet and be with the people, even if it's more limited right now than
Totally. Yep.
normal?
Oh, there's just something so special about in the makeup world, like collaborating. So whether it's with like a photographer or, a team of whoever, whatever the situation might be, it's so awesome to be part of something and have something to offer that situation. I think like growing up as a kid, I don't know about you, but growing up in Moose Jaw, there was always like movies being filmed and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just remember like sitting on the sidewalk watching across the street and like just just wishing I could be part of something like that.
Aw.
So yeah, so I still even catch myself in those moments. Like if I'm on set for a movie or whatever, I'm like, oh, the little kid in me is like still freaking out.
I love that. I
Yeah.
don't think we do that often enough as adults. I think it's so
Yeah.
easy to get into, no matter what your career path or creative or not, like it doesn't matter, whatever you've decided where you're spending your time as an adult.
Mhm.
I think it's so easy to kind of forget those little moments. And if you're not in a career where you're reminded of that, like the way you're describing, where you are having these sort of flashbacks of things that are coming to you, I think
Yeah.
it's so important to kind of figure that out and to not lose that sense of, okay, at one point in my life, there were things, and I think sometimes that's the beauty of sort of seeing life through the eyes of a child, whether your own
Exactly.
children or somebody else's children, or just, I don't know, even movies and just seeing how children respond to situations. There's
Yes.
just this, I don't know, there's just this like innocence and seeing the excitement levels that can come from something so minor
Yeah.
that, like, honestly would probably be one of the things that I think I learn most from my kids every day
I
is
was gonna
just
say
like,
that. Yeah.
let's get excited about something. Let's be happy. And it doesn't have to be something wild.
Totally. It's the simple things. Like I've been nannying a bit through COVID. And I'm with a little 2-year-old little guy and he is so sweet. And I just, it fills my heart right up. He just loves, like slime and playing with his little cars and he just, finds so much joy in like the little things. So yeah, I'm sure you've experienced a lot of that when you became a mom and just as they're growing up, you see so much of like, oh, I forgot like how much joy that brought me or how fun
Totally.
that
Well, and especially too, once they get to the age where I remember having special memories, like, like you sort of can
was.
remember that. And then when they get to that age and surpass that age, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I still so clearly remember,
Yes.
like, my daughter's about to turn 13. I'm like, I so remember my 13th birthday. Like that was like such a big deal. And like all of these just things where it's like you're like almost having these like out of body experiences where you feel like you're like reliving these, like you realize it's not you. I'm like, this is not about me. This is about you.
That especially if your daughter like looks something like you, it's almost like you're watching like a bit of like glimpse into
Yes.
your childhood.
It's
Oh, that's so neat.
really the most bizarre thing ever, but it's quite amazing.
That's
Oh
very
my goodness. Yeah. I think I
oh,
agree with you. I think inspiration is just everywhere. And I love that you talked about this. And you are just such a gem. I'm so thankful that you shared your story today. And
oh,
to
thank
wrap up our interview, I ask the same questions
you.
to each guest because I think it's so interesting to hear real details about your life. And
Okay.
it's harder right now because none of us maybe feel like we're living our best lives during
Yes.
COVID.
Exactly. It's limited.
We've got to be extra creative. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a few speed questions.
Okay.
Um, what book are you currently reading?
Well, I'm currently not reading anything because
That's a
I've just
great
been
answer.
so laser focused on expanding my business. But when I was reading something, I got partway through Eckhart Tolle, Power of Now.
Whoa, that's a big one to be working through.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I'm always like a self-help book kind of person. Like I've had my journey through, depression and anxiety and so for me, like that growth is so important. I think without having faced that and overcome my struggles, well, I still deal with anxiety, but you know what I mean for the most
Yeah,
part.
working
Um,
working at it.
yeah, like had I not worked through and done that healing work, I just don't think I would be expanding with my art the way that I am. I think our limiting beliefs get us down and they hold us back and so yeah, that's kind of the sort of genre of books that I like to focus on for that
Yeah,
reason.
I totally agree. I'm reading
Yeah.
Rachel Hollis's
Oh,
Didn't See That Coming right now. Yeah.
I didn't know about this one.
Yes, she just launched a new book
Huh?
a little while ago. Yeah, that's her most recent book. And she started writing it during COVID as
Yeah.
like sort of a, hey, we didn't see this
Oh,
pandemic coming. And then in the middle of her writing the book, her and her husband got a divorce.
Whoa. So
Boom. Yeah. So that's like not a part of the book. That's like common knowledge prior to reading the book.
okay.
But so she rewrites the book.
My gosh.
Yeah. And so it's like a part of the book about her rewriting the book because didn't see that coming was the title already, but then she lived through the divorce. Anyways,
Whole new
it's
meaning.
riveting. Yeah, I love it. I'm
Oh my
only like partway
God.
through, so I'll keep you posted.
Oh, please do. That's good to know. I'm
Yeah,
always
it's
down
really
for a
good.
good recommendation.
Are you a coffee drinker and what's your coffee order?
I am not a coffee drinker, but I do like coffee. I just can't do the caffeine. So I will order a decaf with like a little bit of milk in it.
That's
Or
amazing.
tea.
Well,
I
I
like
might be joining your side of the decaf world soon. Let me
tea.
tell you, we were
Oh,
talking about this prior to jumping on recording here tonight, where I told you that I was on a cleanse.
yes.
And the going off of coffee might have been the worst experience of my entire life. So much so that I don't know that I can go back to having caffeine because I never, ever want to experience going off of caffeine
Oh
again.
my gosh, that's
It was,
wild.
it was so wild. I've been documenting this on Instagram.
Yeah, you got to do it somewhere.
Horrific. Yeah, I only share it like it is,
Yeah.
and it was horrific. Yeah, super bad.
Really? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Well,
And I'm not a wild, like I'm like a 1 cup of coffee. Like I'm not having like 8 cups of coffee in a day. Like occasionally the afternoon rolls around. I'm like, oh, I should have a coffee, but I like would
yeah.
never have coffee after 3 o'clock.
Oh, totally. I'd be up all night.
Yeah, like anyways, didn't realize the
Oh,
effects until going off of it. And it was day one, just something.
wow.
So stick to
Wild.
because I think I'm gonna be on that same train.
Well, it's so funny. I see, like memes of people are like, they feel like $1,000,000 after they have a coffee. And I do not feel that way. Like, I feel like all of a sudden I'm so anxious and nervous. I'm like, what's happening? Oh, I had coffee. Okay, it's fine.
Well, yeah, and it's so funny. It was almost like I didn't realize until it was out of my system
Yeah.
that it wasn't making me feel good. Like I didn't actually realize it wasn't because I wouldn't have said it didn't make me feel good. I felt like I was fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, not having it, my like head feels so clear. I literally feel like seeing things feels clearer. Like I feel like
Oh my
I'm
God.
seeing things clear. It's very weird. And I
Wow.
don't know if this is all attributed to just the caffeine. I mean, I'm no physician, but it's
Well,
something. Yeah,
whatever you're doing something.
yeah, I'm on the right track apparently.
That's crazy. Wow.
Okay, this is a little bit of a hard one sometimes, this
Okay.
question. What song would be the theme song for your life?
Ooh. The first song that pops in my mind is Crazy Dreams by Carrie Underwood.
Oh,
And
good one.
I have always been a dreamer to a fault. Like really a dreamer. And I remember when I was competing in Cannes at the film festival that year, I put that song on when I was in the hallway, just quietly with my headphones on, listening to it like right before the big competition. And it just was a song that I remember being like a teenager with big dreams, but insecure and nervous. And, you don't know what's ahead of you. And I
Mhm.
remember listening to that song and she talks about singing with like the hairbrush and yeah, it just gets me really good right in the feels.
Oh, I got goosebumps while you were talking about that. That's so cool.
Oh, it's a good one.
I love it.
Yay.
What is your favorite junk food?
Oh my gosh. So it's like COVID's like the year of junk food.
This is a good question for this year.
This is the best question or the worst.
Like,
So normally I am a salty person. Like I love like chips or even just like pizza. Like I love like salty, savory foods. But my boyfriend has a sweet tooth and he loves chocolate. And
you're a
so,
bad combination with the junk food then.
oh yeah. So I just, used to not really snack on bad foods. And now I'm like, oh, what do we have here? And I have like a huge stash of chocolates in the fridge, and so probably chocolate,
I love
but
it.
everything.
Yeah, I love it. I know. I have both the salty and sweet tooth, so it's a vicious cycle.
Yes, I have now joined your group with the both.
Yeah, it's not a bad group to be
It's
in.
balance,
I
right?
kind of enjoy it. Okay, when was the last time that you belly laughed about something really funny, and what were you laughing about?
Belly laughed. Oh man. I mean, that's one thing too. Like we don't belly laugh enough, like compared to when we were kids, right? Oh, the best. But my boyfriend's actually quite funny. And so he has me cracking up quite a bit.
Is he listening right now? He's like, yeah, I am. I'm funny.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, this week I actually did have a good belly laugh
Did
because
you?
I was watching the newest season of The Bachelor,
Oh,
because that is part of my um sparking joy in my life. We
yeah.
watch with friends, like my husband and I watch with our friends, like we sync it so that we watch it. They live in a different city than us.
Oh my God,
Um,
that's amazing.
so we are virtually watching together, but we're on like FaceTime the whole time while we're watching so that
Yeah.
we can like
Chat about it.
like we're experiencing it together.
Yeah.
And there were two wipeouts on the premiere of like women in their ball gowns, high heels, that like one was just like a little bit of a trip, and the other one was like full on, she's down, and nothing in my life. This was what brings me feeling like I'm still a kid, makes
Yeah.
me laugh more than a wipeout. Even
Oh,
if
it's so true.
laugh, like it's inappropriate, my laughing sometimes. I have to like control myself. Even when it's like someone's really hurt, my
Yeah.
first instinct is to laugh. Even if it's
Oh
my
my
kid,
God.
it's so bad.
It's so funny though. Those like I remember there was one video on YouTube of this dad recording everyone outside of the school falling. Did you see that one? Oh my God.
Like it just, and I'm like howling before it even happens,
It's so,
anticipating what's about to happen. It's so good.
it's great. There's nothing better.
There is nothing better. I just love it. Oh my word.
Oh,
Okay, last question. Where are you most looking forward to traveling once we can finally be given the green flag to hit the airports?
oh my gosh. Literally anywhere. But let me pick somewhere. Um, we want to go to Italy because my boyfriend's half Italian and he's never been to Italy, but his mom grew up here and whatever. But so probably Italy.
Oh my goodness. Can you even imagine? And the things, the junk food and snacks and treats you're going to eat in Italy. Woo!
A pasta, like
Yeah,
sign me
come
up.
on. Love it.
Oh my God, yeah.
This has
How
been,
about you? Where do you want to go?
oh, you're exactly what I would answer. I have so many on my list. So
Right.
right now, in like this first part of the new year and in February, we were planning on being in Sayulita in Mexico.
Oh, I love Saylita.
Ugh,
Such a
like
cute little town.
it's so cute. And I mean,
So
like
great.
Puerto Vallarta has probably been like the place we've gone to the most in
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
And we just love it there. And it's just so awesome. And we've like stayed extended stays there before. Like I just am like, can I please just stay here? I love it so
We
much.
have you. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly how I felt when I was there. I was like, Mom, like, I actually think I'm just gonna stay. So,
Yeah. Like, was I meant to be from here? Because this feels very at home for
this
me.
feels
Yeah.
great. The
This feels
waves,
great.
the beach. Yeah, I'm
Yeah. The
good.
people. Oh, love it.
Oh, yeah, it's
This
magic.
has been an absolute delight, Caitlin. Thank
Oh,
you
thank
so
you.
much. This has been so fun to catch up, and I
Okay.
cannot wait to try out these wall decals because this is going to save my mental health, I think. These
Oh,
wall decals.
seriously, like you can't believe the impact they have. Like you put them on, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh wow, I feel great. This is great. Just a
Right?
little
Well,
fresh.
I will be trying them. This is amazing. Love it. Well,
I'm so
thanks
excited for you to
again.
get
You
them.
are such a gem, and I can't wait to see what the next chapter has in store for you.
Oh, you as well. Thank you so much. You're doing such great things. Thank you for having me.